In the heart of the great village of Ajolash, nestled at the edge of a dense forest where the sounds of the earth whispered ancient secrets, there stood the magnificent workshop of Oga Adebayo, the richest and most powerful man in the land. His reputation as a master craftsman had spread far beyond the borders of Ajolash, reaching the ears of kings and queens, travelers, and traders alike. Oga Adebayo was known for his ability to turn the simplest of materials into works of art, and his wealth seemed endless. But in the hearts of his workers, there lingered a strange unease. They worked tirelessly from dawn till dusk, yet none of them ever seemed to prosper. Those who had once entered his workshop with dreams of becoming great artisans themselves had soon lost all ambition. They were bound by an invisible force, a heavy weight that kept them in place, their minds dulled and their spirits crushed. One young apprentice, Kofi, had recently arrived at Oga Adebayo's workshop, eager to learn the craft and rise above his humble beginnings. Kofi had come from the village of Olowogbo, where his father had been a well-respected blacksmith. However, it was the promise of Oga's skills and wealth that lured Kofi into his workshop. At first, everything seemed perfect. Oga Adebayo took Kofi under his wing, teaching him the delicate art of carving wood into beautiful masks, crafting intricate beadwork, and weaving stories into the very fabric of his creations. Kofi admired his Oga, who seemed to possess not only extraordinary skill but also a mysterious presence. The older man's eyes gleamed with a wisdom that seemed to pierce through Kofi's soul, and his words carried the weight of someone who knew more than they let on. Yet, as Kofi worked under Oga's tutelage, something began to feel wrong. The other apprentices, despite their skill, had no hope of ever advancing. They were trapped, stuck in the same place year after year, their lives slowly fading into the background of Oga's magnificent success. They had become like the wood they worked with, polished on the outside but hollow on the inside. One evening, after a long day of work, Kofi noticed something strange. He was walking back to his small hut near the edge of the workshop when he saw Oga Adebayo standing alone by the river, his hands raised towards the sky as though in communion with the heavens. His lips moved, speaking words that Kofi could not hear, but the air around him seemed to shimmer with an unnatural energy. Curiosity gnawed at Kofi's heart. He had seen Oga perform this ritual before, but it had always been in the dead of night, hidden from the eyes of the apprentices. Tonight, however, something felt different. Kofi felt an inexplicable urge to get closer. Quietly, he crept towards Oga, hiding behind a thick brush. What he saw next made his heart race with fear. Oga Adebayo was not alone. The apprentices, his trusted workers, were gathered around him in a circle, their eyes glazed, their faces expressionless. They stood motionless as Oga spoke words that seemed to twist the very air. Kofi watched in horror as the spell wrapped around them like a net, drawing them deeper into Oga's control. A deep realization struck him: Oga was no ordinary craftsman. He was a master of dark magic, a sorcerer who had cast a spell on his apprentices, binding them to his will. They were slaves to his power, unable to leave the workshop or grow in their craft. Their very essence had been stolen from them. Kofi's mind raced. He had to break free from Oga's spell. He had come to learn, to grow, not to become another lost soul bound to the whims of a master who cared only for his own success. But how could he escape the Oga's grip? Kofi had heard stories from his village about powerful sorcerers who could bind others with spells, but he had never thought it could be true. The thought of challenging Oga's power seemed impossible. Oga's mastery over the craft and the dark arts was legendary, and Kofi was but a simple apprentice. But Kofi was not without hope. He remembered an old tale his grandmother had told him before he left Olowogbo, a story about a powerful spirit, Olumo, who could break the chains of any sorcery if approached with pure heart and unyielding courage. Determined to free himself and his fellow apprentices, Kofi sought out the elders in the village of Ajolash. They spoke in hushed tones of Olumo, the great spirit who guarded the village's secrets, and who was said to reside deep within the forest that bordered the village. Kofi, guided by the stories and his growing desperation, set out into the forest the following morning. The journey was treacherous, and the forest seemed to shift around him, its trees whispering secrets only the wind could understand. For days, Kofi wandered deeper into the wilderness, feeling the weight of his quest pressing on his shoulders. At night, he would rest beside the river, the same river where he had seen Oga perform his dark rituals. It was there, in the stillness of the forest, that Kofi finally encountered Olumo. The spirit appeared to him as a giant, glowing figure with a mask made of pure gold. Olumo's eyes were deep pools of wisdom, and his voice echoed like thunder through the trees. "You seek to break the chains of the ogre?" Olumo asked, his voice like a gust of wind. "But are you ready to pay the price of freedom?" Kofi nodded, his heart filled with resolve. "I am ready. I cannot watch my brothers and sisters lose their lives to his dark magic." Olumo's golden mask shimmered as if considering Kofi's words. Then, with a motion that was both graceful and terrifying, he extended a hand towards Kofi. "To free them, you must first understand the depth of their chains," Olumo intoned. "The spell Ogre has cast is woven into their very souls. You must break it from within. Only then can they be free." Kofi's heart sank. "How do I break the spell from within?" Olumo's golden mask shimmered as if considering Kofi's words. Then, with a motion that was both graceful and terrifying, he extended a hand towards Kofi. "To free them, you must first understand the depth of their chains," Olumo intoned. "The spell Ogre has cast is woven into their very souls. You must break it from within. Only then can they be free." Kofi's heart sank. "How do I break the spell from within?" Olumo smiled, a wise and sorrowful smile. "The path is not easy. The spell can only be broken by the strength of the spirit, the courage of the heart, and the unity of the soul. You must lead them to break the spell, not with force, but with the truth of their own strength." With that, Olumo vanished into the forest, leaving Kofi alone with the weight of his mission. Kofi returned to the workshop, his resolve stronger than ever. He knew what he had to do. The key to breaking the spell was not to fight Ogre's magic directly, but to awaken the spirits of the apprentices, to remind them of their strength and their purpose. He began speaking to his fellow apprentices, quietly at first, planting seeds of doubt in their hearts. He reminded them of the dreams they once had, the goals they had set before coming to Ogre's workshop. Slowly, they began to remember who they were before the spell had consumed them. The fire of ambition that had once burned brightly in their hearts reignited. But Ogre was not blind to Kofi's actions. One night, as Kofi stood before the apprentices, urging them to find their strength, Ogre appeared in the doorway, his eyes blazing with fury. "You dare defy me, Kofi?" Ogre's voice was cold as ice. "You think you can break the spell with mere words? You are nothing but a child." Kofi stood tall, his heart beating strong. "You are wrong, Ogre. The spell you cast is not as powerful as you think. It is bound by the belief that it is unbreakable. But we are not weak. We have the strength to free ourselves." For the first time, Kofi saw Ogre's confidence falter. The sorcerer's eyes widened, and for a moment, Kofi saw a flicker of fear in them. It was enough. The spell began to unravel, slowly at first, then faster as the apprentices stood together, their hearts united in defiance of Ogre's control. With a final cry, Ogre's power shattered. The apprentices were free. The Ogre, once feared and revered, vanished from Ajolash, his reign of terror broken by the courage of a single apprentice. The village was forever changed, and Kofi, now a master in his own right, took his place among the elders. The apprentices, once bound by a dark spell, now thrived, using their craft to build a community of creativity and freedom. And so, the tale of the Ogre spell was passed down through the generations, a reminder that no one is ever truly bound, so long as they remember their strength and the power of unity. And so it was that Kofi's name became known far and wide, not as a mere apprentice, but as the man who broke the chains of the Ogre spell, bringing light and freedom to the village of Ajolash.